Hi, this is Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design, and this is a discussion about the solar plexus, which is one of the energy centers in your chart. If you're looking at your chart, the solar plexus is on the right side of the body graph, and it's a brown triangle, if it's colored in. It might also be white. But the solar plexus is the center for emotions and feelings. It's the dominant authority when it is colored in your chart, because it's where you're going to make your decisions if it is colored in. And whether it's colored in or not, it is where you're going to feel your emotions and feelings. So for the defined solar plexus, which is about half of the population, your solar plexus operates in waves. And this is going to sound a little funny, but in human design, we call them emotional waves. And so the emotional wave is a natural chemical process of the defined solar plexus. It's as natural as any hormonal cycle. And there are 3 types of emotional waves, depending on which channels are connected to another center. So there are 3 different types of channels that get connected to the emotional solar plexus. And so some of these are called tribal. In fact, let's see, 1, 2, 3 of them are tribal. 2 of them are individual, and 4 of them are collective. So the ones that are tribal have kind of a gentle wave, right? There are 3 of those. So when you look at your chart and it's colored in for the solar plexus, that means it's connected to one of the other centers that's nearby, and the channel that connects it, or the 2 gates that are associated with it, will tell you whether it's someone that's reading your chart, whether it's tribal, individual, or collective. And so there are 3 types of emotional waves. And the tribal wave is rather gentle. It's got small ups and downs, but it can be explosive at times. The individual wave can be more extreme, with high highs and low lows and mood swings. And the collective wave can be also a rather extreme wave, but it's got a slower jog up to a high and then a quick drop to a low with sudden changes in mood. And so the tribal waves are a little less changeable than the other waves, but the other waves will have those high highs and low lows that can disrupt. So when you have an emotional wave, it's important that you don't try to make up reasons for your moods. Just accept it as a natural mechanical process in the body, because your moods will be ever changing, just like the wave patterns of the ocean. And when you're at the top of your wave, enjoy it. And when you're at the bottom of your wave, just know that this too shall pass. It really is a good practice to use the low end of your wave in a creative way. For example, you might like to paint or draw, write poetry, sewing, cooking, baking. Even can be creative ways of working through the wave, writing and journaling, things like that. So if you currently have a creative outlet for the melancholy that you experience as part of the emotional wave, that's great. Many of my clients actually tell me that they come to enjoy the low points just as much as the high points for 2 reasons. One is that having a creative outlet when you're feeling melancholy can help you to get through that period of melancholy a little more quickly, but it can also help you to feel more productive when you've had this melancholy period, as opposed to going back to bed or laying on the couch or, binge watching Netflix. You can then find something that's creative and a great outlet for you, but that also helps you to feel productive. So having a defined solar plexus also means that you're not designed to make decisions in the moment. You really want to take your time when making decisions. Don't allow anyone to ever pressure you into making a spontaneous decision. That's not really correct for you, especially when it's a big decision. And you want to check in with your defined solar plexus at several different points in your emotional wave. So it's not wise to make a decision, as you can imagine, from either a high or a low point in your wave. You want to make your decision from kind of a neutral point in your wave, where there's not a strong emotional charge. And a lot of my clients report that this is a feeling of emotional clarity that they get. And it's not in their head, it's usually in their body. They feel this clarity coming in their body when they're ready to make a decision. So what you're going to do is, when you're presented with a decision, first of all, you're going to say, oh, that sounds great, let me sleep on it, or that's interesting, can I get back to you on that? And then you're going to walk away, and especially with the big decisions, you want to wait out the emotional wave. And you can put it on a calendar. They are unique waves. They are unique to you. but you can put it on a calendar and see exactly how the wave is expressing itself. Whether it's high one day or low another day, you can write it on the calendar and then see exactly how long your wave lasts. Because when you're making a big decision, you want to wait out the entire wave before you give an answer on that decision. For some people, it's a few days. For some people, it's a week or more. For some people, it can be a few months. So you do want to find out exactly how long your wave is so that you know how long you have to wait for a big decision. And then when you're making that decision, if you're a generator or manifesting generator, you want to check in with your gut response at various points in your emotional wave. Check in with your sacral. If you're a manifester, wait for emotional clarity before you inform others and take action. And if you're a projector, you want to be sure to sleep on it, especially on an invitation, until you know that it's correct for you. And as you're waiting for these answers to come, as you're asking the question each day, yes or no, if you get all yeses, then go ahead and make the decision. If you get any no's, then perhaps it's not the right timing. But you'll know by the end of your emotional wave which is the correct answer. And just know that your defined solar plexus is transmitting your emotions out into the environment. So you're kind of setting the emotional tone of whatever room you're in. So just be mindful of others who might be emotionally open and taking in your emotional energy and amplifying it. So for the defined solar plexus in a healthy state, you want to take your time when making decisions, you want to wait for clarity, and you want to understand what your emotions may do to others. So if your solar plexus is white, then you have an open solar plexus, which again is about 50% of the population. So with this center being open, you're taking in and amplifying the emotional energy of the environment wherever you are. And so you might have noticed that you're vulnerable to the needs and moods and feelings of other people. People with an open solar plexus are victims of emotional chaos and can even feel like their emotions are out of control sometimes when they're around that. So it's important for you to realize that what you're feeling and expressing as emotions are sometimes not yours. They actually belong to other people, so you want to do your best not to identify with them. In fact, we recommend that you learn to be a screen and not a sponge. You want to allow the emotions to flow through you, just like the breeze flows through a window, and then not take them in, not be a sponge and absorb or soak up that chaotic emotional energy in the environment. It's just not good for you. That's not what the open solar plexus is meant to do. It really doesn't like very emotional situations. So whenever the emotional energy in the environment gets to be too intense for you or uncomfortable, you want to physically remove yourself from that environment. Really just break auric contact with whoever's causing the emotional chaos. Because, as I said, your open solar plexus is just not designed to handle emotional chaos. And soon after you remove yourself from that emotionally chaotic environment, you'll return to your natural state, which is cool, calm, and collected. You might even feel immediate relief when you break auric contact from that person. On the other hand, as somebody with an open solar plexus, you will find yourself going to great effort to avoid conflict and confrontation. We do this because we don't want to upset other people and then have to deal with their emotional reaction. But what's happening there is that we find ourselves using dysfunctional coping mechanisms to deal with other people's emotional energy, right? So the people with the open solar plexus do tend to be people pleasers. We're playing nice, we're trying to please everyone and bending over backwards to make them happy. We go along to get along, don't make waves, don't rock the boat. But in the end, what's happening is that we're not speaking our truth and avoiding conflict and confrontation as a result. And some people even have a secret life where they're trying to protect themselves from really abusive and emotional relationships. So the open solar plexus in a healthy state is where you're compassionate, but not empathetic unless you want to be, that you confront others when necessary, that you're willing to speak your truth even if it may upset someone else, that you realize that the emotions that you take in and feel are not yours, they're really from other people, and so you don't need to get reactive or attached to those emotions. And finally, you'll learn to act like a screen and not a sponge. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video.